Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so.
The liberal response to that kind of jab was not to deny being ignorant, but to deny being liberal. Ronald Reagan was the master at rewriting the word liberal into an insult, and his lesson was learned by every Republican candidate for president since Reagan. Meanwhile, Republicans have increasingly embraced the word conservative. In Ronald Reagan's day, there were liberal Republicans and conservative Democrats, as well as obviously liberal Democrats and conservative Republicans. And now there are no liberal Republicans left in Washington and no truly conservative Democrats left in Washington, and no front runner for the Democratic nomination for president ever claims to be liberal, while every Republican front runner for the Republican nomination for president claims to be conservative.
I'm a compassionate conservative, and proudly so.
I was a severely conservative Republican governor.
So Democrats duck every time the word liberal is thrown at them, even the most liberal Democrats, while Republicans love claiming the word conservative, even former liberal Republicans like Mitt Romney. But radio host Adam Carolla has noticed none of that.
The left has taken over the word conservative and turned it into a pejorative. So it's like, oh, you're conservative. They've done a wonderful smear campaign.
Adam Carolla said that this week. A wonderful smear campaign? Really, Adam? If the left has run a wonderful smear campaign against the word conservative, why have Republicans spent 50 years tightening their grip on the label conservative? If the left has run a successful smear campaign against the word conservative, why do Republican candidates for president fight each other over who is the most conservative?
The only effective vote to stop a Massachusetts liberal from becoming our nominee is to vote for Newt Gingrich.
There's your political pejorative right there, liberal. And if you want to make it sound really bad, put the word Massachusetts in front of it. Republicans wish they could run against a Massachusetts liberal every time.
Crime, environmental problems, liberal spending out of control. Michael Dukakis, out of touch with our values and problems.
That is what professional politicians on both sides believe that liberal has come to mean in our politics, out of touch with our values and problems. The single most successful piece of domestic American political propaganda of the 20th century is that liberalism is out of touch with our values and problems. The liberal political establishment response to that propaganda was not to just run away from the word liberal, but to actually change their name. They dropped liberal and started using the word progressive. They wanted to get the message to you that they stood for something, some general political philosophy, but they just couldn't bring themselves to use the word liberal because Republicans had so successfully turned that word into a political pejorative. Here is the bravest response by a liberal at the presidential level to being labeled a liberal.
Are you the most liberal president in U.S. history?
Probably not.
Probably not?
Probably not.
Now that is the height of political bravery. When confronted with the label liberal, President Obama did not deny being a liberal. His answer actually accepts that he is a liberal. But he sure didn't want to say much more about it. It's not easy to get a two-word answer out of President Obama, but at least he didn't deny being a liberal. But of course, Bill O'Reilly was not finished.
I think that's fair to say. You know, the truth of the matter is that when you look at some of my policies, in a lot of ways, Richard Nixon was more liberal than I was. Started the EPA, started a whole lot of the regulatory state that has helped make our air and water clean.
That's interesting, Nixon. That's interesting.
Well,
I thought you were going to say FDR.
Well, FDR, Johnson. But I tend not to think about these things in terms of liberal and Democrat, or liberal and conservative, because at any given time, the question is, what does the country need right now?
Okay, not exactly a stirring defense of liberalism, but President Obama did not duck and run when the word liberal was thrown at him. But stirring defenses of liberalism is not what liberal presidents or what liberal presidential candidates do.
I am not going to let Governor Dukakis go through this election without explaining some of these very liberal positions. He's the one that said, I am a liberal, traditional liberal, progressive liberal Democrat.
I'm not keeping count, but I think Mr. Bush has used the label liberal at least 10 times.
Yeah, if President Bush used the word liberal 10 times, then Michael Dukakis should have stood his ground and used the word liberal 11 times. It was true. He was a liberal. But by 1988, liberal presidential candidates had been beaten up so badly with that word that they had no idea how to fight back. They had no idea that they could actually use that word in their own defense. To this day, no liberal presidential candidate has done that. For that, we have to turn to fiction.
You're not an unthinking liberal, are you?
I know you like to use that word liberal as if it were a crime.
No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have used that word. I know Democrats think liberal is a bad word. So bad you had to change it, didn't you? What do you call yourselves now? Progressives?
It's true. Republicans have tried to turn liberal into a bad word. Well, liberals ended slavery in this country.
A Republican president ended slavery.
Yes. A liberal Republican. What happened to them? They got run out of your party. Well, what did liberals do that was so offensive to the Republican Party, Senator? I'll tell you what they did. Liberals got women the right to vote. Liberals got African Americans the right to vote. Liberals created Social Security and lifted millions of elderly people out of poverty. Liberals ended segregation. Liberals passed the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act. Liberals created Medicare. Liberals passed the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act. What did conservatives do? They opposed every one of those programs, every one. So when you try to hurl that word liberal at my feet as if it were something dirty, something to run away from, something that I should be ashamed of, it won't work, Senator, because I will pick up that label and I will wear it as a badge of honor.